Vice Mayor McCullough.
Aye.
Mayor Phillips.
Aye, the matter carries 5-0. We'll then turn to the next flavored tobacco product ban. That is item B. And welcome, Ethan.
Thank you. I'm Ethan Guy. I'm with the Community Development Department. So today we're talking about an informational report on a potential flavored tobacco ban. We're not actually voting on a draft ordinance, rather just an informational report. So where this came about started in 1999 with an ordinance creating our tobacco retailer license. In 2003, we revised that tobacco retailer license to include a definition for a significant tobacco retailer. A significant tobacco retailer is a business that devotes over 20% of their display area to tobacco sales or has 75% of their gross receipts coming from tobacco sales. The big change with the significant tobacco retailer is that that ordinance prohibits significant tobacco retailers from being in 1,000 feet of a designated space frequented by youth and families. So that includes schools, churches, movie theaters, that sort of thing. In 2012, Council amended our smoking ordinance to also include enhancements for outdoor and indoor air regulations. And then in 2016, Council further amended that smoking ordinance to prohibit public e-cigarette use, eliminating smoking exemptions for downtown, and adding pedestrian-friendly signage downtown. In county-wide jurisdictions, there have been several tobacco bans that have come through over the last few years. County of Marin most recently passed an ordinance in November, and then smaller jurisdictions nearby have also put forth both flavored tobacco bans and pharmacy tobacco retail bans. I'll get into a little bit of a difference between the flavored tobacco bans in a sec. What a pharmacy tobacco retail ban is, it essentially bans all tobacco sales in pharmacies. So that would be Rite Aids, Walgreens, CVS's. At the state and federal level, statewide right now, there's currently SB 38 and AB 739, which are under consideration. The California legislation prohibits retail stores and vending machines from selling flavored tobacco products, which include nicotine cartridges. SB 38 currently has been approved in the Health Committee and is set for the Appropriations Committee on their hearing on April 22nd. AB 739 has been introduced to the floor but has not been assigned to a committee. Federally, there's been the SB 655 and its companion bill HR 1498, which is the Stop Appealing Flavors in E-Cigarettes for Kids Act, Safe Kids Act. What's different about this is that it provides a year-long ability for e-cigarette manufacturers to prove that their flavors meet one of three criteria: that they help adults quit smoking cigarettes, do not increase youth initiation of nicotine or tobacco products, and do not increase the risk or harm to the person using the flavor. So in the House, that's been introduced as of March 5th and has been referred to the House Committee on Energy and Commerce. At the Senate level, it was introduced in 2018 and referred to the Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee, but no action was taken. And at the same time as the House bill was then reintroduced this year. How we have kind of framed the issue of a flavored tobacco ban. One of the main organizations, the American Lung Association, puts out their annual State of Tobacco Control for California. San Rafael, we score an A right now. Overall, we have a grade of 12 out of 12, so that's something that we can definitely be proud of. And then in each of their individual categories, we score fairly highly. A flavored tobacco ban is one of their emerging issues, so it's not included within that rating, but you can get bonus points if you do pass a flavored tobacco ban. Where we currently have our tobacco retailer license, this is as of December 31st, 2018, we have 54. The little circles that you're seeing, in the middle are the schools. The red circle is 1,000 feet from the school, the orange circle is 1,500 feet, and then the lighter tan circle is 2,000 feet from a school. And so to kind of see the general distribution, they're mostly through downtown. There are a few tobacco retailers that fall within that 1,000-foot school zone. Most of the reason behind those is that they've been grandfathered into their license. So they either were approved for that license prior to, or they had a tobacco retail license prior to a school going in, or they were already selling tobacco before the tobacco sales. So part of where most of these flavored tobacco bans are coming from is mostly youth use of tobacco. So for 2018, this is for the San Rafael City School District. Lifetime use, so this is if you've ever used cigarettes or ever used e-cigarettes, we're seeing quite substantial increases in youth tobacco use. So in 2018, 3 to 5 times more youth are using e-cigarettes versus cigarettes. So for the question, have you ever smoked a whole cigarette? 7th graders indicated about 7% had smoked a whole cigarette, compared to e-cigarettes, that same group said 17%. For tobacco current use, so the question here is, in the last month, have you used either a cigarette or an e-cigarette? From the school year 15-16, that should say 66%, but there was a 66% decrease amongst 9th graders and 11th graders having used have smoked a cigarette in the last month. Whereas in that same time span, this is from school year 15-16 to 17-18, there was a 400% increase among 9th graders and 175% increase amongst 11th graders having used e-cigarettes. Now, there are some reasons outside of enjoyment of e-cigarettes for the use of e-cigarettes, and that mostly has to do with smoking cessation. From the CDC, e-cigarettes are not approved by the FDA for smoking cessation, but are used more frequently than FDA-approved smoking cessation aids by individuals trying to quit. E-cigarettes are not approved for, are not safe for youth, young adults, pregnant women, or adults who do not currently use tobacco products. E-cigarettes have the potential to benefit adult smokers who are not pregnant if used as a complete substitute for regular cigarettes, however. Only a few studies with mixed results on the effectiveness of e-cigarettes as long-term smoking cessation tool. So there are studies, but it's somewhat mixed. So what we're here today asking for is to consider potential amendments to the San Rafael Municipal Code 8.15. Changes that would go, part of these amendments would be if the council wanted to consider a flavored tobacco ban, as well as that second one should actually say a pharmacy ban. But that flavored tobacco ban, to do that, you would need to define something as a characterizing flavor. A characterizing flavor is anything that's added to a tobacco or nicotine product so that it no longer tastes like tobacco. So that would include menthol cigarettes, that would include additional flavors that might be added to e-cigarette vaping liquids. Additionally, it would require the addition of a new section of the SRMC that would specifically call out that ban for the sale of flavored tobacco. If the council decided wanting to do a pharmacy tobacco ban, we would need to define pharmacy within that section of the SRMC, and then additionally include a section prohibiting the sale of tobacco use, or tobacco sale. So to recap, our recommended action is to accept the report regarding this draft ordinance and to provide staff direction. The 4 options that we've outlined are direct staff to return with draft ordinance as written, to have us return with changes to that draft ordinance, to return with more information, and then finally we could also take no action.
First, thanks for your report. Your reports are excellent, and this is another example. I really do appreciate the way you present this, so thank you for that. Comments?
At the moment, I'll defer.
Okay, no, that's fine, that's fine. Anyway, I'm just trying to get it.
Quick question.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you, Ethan. I agree with the mayor. That was a great report. Actually, 2 questions. You make a point of talking about the significant tobacco retailer, but we don't have any of those, do we? By that definition, which was 75% of their business is tobacco products.
Yes, we do. We have, I believe the Mighty Quinn qualifies as significant tobacco
Okay.
retailer, and there's also a discount cigarette store in the West End.
Okay,
The
so
West
that's
End,
yours.
right.
That's right. And then the other question is, who would do, if we decide in our conversation and after hearing from the community that we want to proceed, who does the enforcement of both of them? So one's a flavored tobacco ban and one's a pharmacy ban. Who does the enforcement of that?
So since these changes would occur to our tobacco retail license ordinance, the enforcement would be carried out through the Sheriff's Department. The Sheriff's Department currently has an MOU with the city to enforce verification and making sure that stores are not selling, and it would fall under that umbrella.
So the cities that have already passed bans, I think Nevada was up there, another big city. So the sheriff will be going into the gas station, or do they do like decoy operations the way they do with alcohol? Like, I don't understand what that looks like.
Yeah, and I see a few members from the county here, so they might be able to answer more specifics about that enforcement as well. From my understanding, the Sheriff's Department goes in at least once a year to check to make sure they're not selling, what their sales are regarding. I'm not sure if there's stings. What has been passed on to me from the county is that over the next 3 years, they have received additional funding from the Department of Justice to increase their enforcement.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? Which case that's open for,
Wait, John.
oh, I'm sorry, John. John,
Quick on the
please.
gavel.
Yeah, quick.
Trying to get past me, and it's not going to happen. First of all, most everybody knows my take on smoking in general. I'm not a supporter of it or a proponent of it, and I kind of led the thing on to get the e-cigarette ban on downtown and outside. So, but I look at ordinances like this and what's being requested of us, and I have to question: is this the lane that we want to be in as a city? Especially when you noted, and I in my research noted that there is significant legislation both on the state and federal level to ban the usage of this, and us putting an ordinance in place in a local municipality, I just don't see that it's going to be worth anything, and I'm looking for someone to tell me how this is going to impact the usability or availability to get access to these things when you can go online, order it, you can go to a neighboring jurisdiction that doesn't have a ban and buy it. And correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm not being facetious here, it's currently illegal for minors to purchase flavored cigarettes, flavored tobacco, flavored vaping products, all that, correct?
Yeah, the legal purchasing age is 21.
The legal purchasing age is 21. So we're saying that we want to do this to help decrease the amount, or one of the largest reasons behind this is what I'm hearing, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is that we want to decrease the ability for youths to gain access to these products because that'll, we've seen these large increases, 400% increases in youth since e-cigarettes came online. It's still illegal for them to buy those, so how are they getting them?
Yeah, one quick clarification, that 400% increase is over the last school year.
Sure. But,
Yeah.
okay.
The top three reasons that have been listed by the FDA as to how students and how youth are getting access to e-cigarettes, 33% of respondents to a national survey responded that their parents purchased them for them. And the main reason behind that is the parents believed that e-cigarettes were not as harmful or were not harmful compared to cigarettes. So it is online sales, but there is also a level of adults purchasing for children.
So in a previous council meeting, we approved the delivery and distribution of recreational adult use marijuana within our city limits. And so to take this to the next logical step, if 33% of the people out there are buying e-cigarettes for their kids, could they not just turn around and buy from our delivery services that we've approved in the city of San Rafael marijuana for their kids, because that's illegal as well? I mean, I know that sounds a little bit out there, but I think when we're doing stuff like this, that we're really stepping outside of the lane of what we're charged with as a city. And if the federal government wants to ban it, and if the state government wants to ban it, then I'm happy to follow those rules. But this is just something and again, I'll have comments later on, but my question to you is that how is this going to prevent the youth from getting access to these when it is a perfectly legal product on both the federal and state level currently? Whereas marijuana is legal in the state of California, but is still a federally controlled substance, and yet still being accessed. So I want someone to explain to me how this ordinance will actually prevent these products from getting in the hands of youths.
One big distinction between recreational cannabis and flavored tobacco, especially vaping products, would be the introduction of a characterizing flavor. And that is ultimately one of the major points that the FDA has found to see that increase in youth tobacco use. That characterizing flavor would be the addition of flavors like mango, kiwi, something that takes away from that taste. I'm not working on the recreational cannabis ordinance, so I can't speak directly to that, but in most cases, those products do not include a characterizing flavor.
It has a characterizing flavor of its own, which I think we would all agree as we walk around. And again, I'm not trying to make light of this because I don't think these products are healthful for anybody to smoke, and I kind of wish that they weren't there. But again, I think that we're overstepping, and I'll allow others to speak, that when we discuss of things where we should best put forth our resources and time and effort, as a city, these things are better left to the state and federal government, and if they choose to do that. So that's the questions that I have. Jim, it looks like you want to.
I just wanted to add one real quick thing as an answer to the last question, is that you had asked how it's going to reduce, and I think the simplest answer is just it's going to reduce the amount of places you could buy it in San Rafael. So if San Rafael considers this to be an important health issue, and that's up to the council to decide, there's only a limited number of things that you could do about it, and one of those things is make sure that it's not sold within San Rafael. So could you buy it somewhere else? Yes, but your authority is restricted to the city of San Rafael in terms of this particular issue.
But you can still buy it online,
Yep.
correct? And you can still travel and buy it, and there's no prohibited matter for that. So if people want it, if it's a commodity that people want to buy, whether or not it's available next door or available online delivered to their doorstep, is that. So we're anticipating that we will see a decrease in youth participating in flavored tobacco products by us putting this restriction on being able to sell it. And I guess that's just a difference of opinion of how I feel that that'll happen. Okay, thanks.
Okay, did you? Okay. Well, I have a comment at the end. So let's open to public, pardon me. So we're interested in your input. Please come forward. Not all at once now. Okay.
My first time, and I noticed that when we started with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I think we're all proud to live in a free
Could
country.
you introduce yourself?
Oh, I'm
I
Barry
should have
Anello.
made that clear. Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry. And I think we're all proud to live in a free country. And when I see, personal freedoms being inhibited, especially for me and how it impacts me and people that I know and love that have quit smoking. My mother died from cancer. My grandfather died from cancer. And I've seen a lot of people die from lung cancer. And I know that this has helped thousands of people in this community alone leave cigarettes. Being forced back to a tobacco flavor, which is really what the ban is doing. Nobody is stopping e-cigarette tobacco flavors, but forcing all the people that have quit smoking in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70 years of age that are using these, right, doesn't seem logical to me. And then when I see it on the pretense of because the kids are breaking the law, right, to me, that seems like, where am I living now? Where am I living where my freedoms, my friends, people I love's freedoms are being inhibited because parents, 33% of them are buying them for their children, and the kids can go right on the internet with a cell phone and a debit card and order all that they want, but the people that are older that aren't internet savvy maybe can't drive to Santa Rosa to get them, or maybe they can't order online or whatever. The people that really need this to quit smoking and to quit smoking, right? Their access is being taken away by children that are breaking the law. I grew up, I broke the law as a child, right? And nobody stopped alcohol sales because I was out in front asking people to buy me beer as a kid, right? Oh, is that my time up?
Yes, yes.
I didn't know
Summarize
that.
your comment.
I didn't
if you
know
will.
that happened. Anyways, I'm glad I was able to talk, and I'm very passionate that it's helping the people in this community, and I think that, I wanted to raise my issue. Thank you.
And thank you for your comments. And perhaps for others, if you'd introduce yourself with your name, because we're on tape, not to excite anybody, but we're on tape. And then also, yes, we limit comments to 3 minutes.
Sure. Good evening, members of the City Council. My name is Stefan Diedak, and I am with THR Policy. We educate on the subject of tobacco harm reduction and vapor products in particular. Minors should not vape. I think we all agree on this, but this policy will not accomplish the intended goals. There are better ways to prevent youth access, and we encourage the city to have that conversation with us and work together on more successful and long-term solutions. The proposed prohibition on the sales of flavored vapor products sends the message to adult smokers that they should continue a deadly habit because the city denies them access to a life-saving technology that has worked for millions of Americans. It tells former smokers who now vape that the city prefers they start buying cigarettes again, because after all, this policy would ensure that deadly combustible cigarettes will remain available in the city, while scientifically proven safer alternatives will not. Having looked at the analysis you've been provided, there are several problems that immediately stand out and may not be very obvious to you and would lead to potentially costly unintended consequences for both the city and affected small businesses. One example is that the proposed changes to the TRL will suddenly consider VIP, a business on 2nd Street, to be a tobacco retailer, yet their location is zoned to prohibit tobacco retail. The current TRL does not define VIP as a tobacco retailer due to both floor space and revenue definitions. VIP also happens to be an adult-only establishment where it's impossible for minors to obtain flavored vapor products, yet I don't see any mention in the analysis to exempt such establishments, which the vast majority of other municipalities in the state have included as part of enacting ordinances like this. So I respectfully ask the council to put this proposal on hold and allow us time to meet with any of you and your staff to work on this policy and avoid any of these unintended consequences, while helping the city ensure that minors will not obtain any flavored tobacco products from retailers in this city. Thank you very much.
And thank you. Next person, please.
Hi, my name is David Lacine. Thank you, Mayor and City Council, for considering this and for the opportunity to speak. I've worked with homeless people and people struggling with mental health issues for the last 4 or 5 years, and I'm currently starting a program called everyveteran.org where we help struggling veterans here in Marin. And I just want us to take a moment and realize not every adult in Marin has access to the internet or a debit card or a cell phone. And I can just tell you, working with struggling populations, both my parents smoke. I'm 100% against youth vaping and youth tobacco use. But for really struggling at-risk adults, nicotine can be so calming and reassuring and get them over tough times. And I just want us to carefully consider that this is what we do in a community. We're always balancing individual rights of adults with protecting the community. And I can just tell you, my clients have purposely patronized quite consistently, even though their prices are considerably higher, they'll go to VIP because they don't sell liquor. So there's a little island in the county where they can get that reassuring, calming effect from nicotine and not be tempted to buy a bottle of vodka or a 40-ounce Colt malt liquor. So I would just, all of us, there's a place here for us to carefully consider what we're doing and the unintended consequences of what we're doing. And I'd just like to remind all of us that people suffering from mental illness and people who are homeless and having a hard time, they have a right purchase legal products. So thank you for your time.
And thank you. Next person, please.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, fellow council members. My name is Jaime Rojas. I'm with the National Association of Tobacco Outlets. Our national association represents local retailers that sell tobacco products throughout the United States, including here in the city of San Rafael. The majority of our membership is made up of small business owners. Our business owners, as stated earlier, are against selling all tobacco products to anyone under the age of 21. As it was stated earlier, it's illegal in the state of California as of 2 years ago. Retailers are the last line of defense to stop youth from accessing all tobacco products by doing a few of these things: checking all customer IDs, those who want to buy tobacco, the use of electronic ID verification systems and/or constant education to its employees on how to check IDs, placing of all tobacco products are away from public access and behind the counters, only accessible to employees. So much so that from January 2017 to January 29, in a 2-year period, the FDA sting operations here in the city of San Rafael has been 100% compliant, meaning no retailers have sold to anyone under the age of 21. So retailers here in your city do not sell to youth. The American Lung Association has recently given you a grade A. That grade A could not have been achieved without the city council, the community, and business sectors all in harmony and agreeing with this. In reading the staff report, the survey that is quoted by the Cal School Survey System, tobacco use by San Rafael high school students dropped by 30% by the time they were seniors. This is mostly due to the education outreach conducted in the junior and senior years on the harmful effects of tobacco use. Education works. This month, the San Francisco Commission of Small Business had an initial report on the impacts of its flavor ordinance. Here are some of their findings. 13.1% of San Francisco youth smoke often, which they came out with a number of 147 students in the city of San Francisco. 86% of those 147 students that smoke obtain tobacco products in San Francisco by one of 3 ways: friends, other social sources, and online sales, not by local retailers. So we duly ask with respect to hold on to the issue at hand, wait to what the state and the FDA does, and direct also the staff for an economic impact report that includes sales tax loss and fiscal impact to business. Thank you for your consideration.
And thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Rebecca with.
Drop the mic down just a little bit if you would, please. Thank you.
My name is Rebecca. I'm the buyer for VIP Vape Store. First, can I present you guys with some info?
If you would give it to city clerk.
So, on the top there is a study from the Royal College of Physicians, and some of the things that are noted in there is that vaping cannot cause 5% of the harm that smoking cigarettes does. It doesn't have the same danger of secondhand smoke, and it's 93% healthier than smoking cigarettes. It's really important that adults be able to access that while being able to figure out what's right for them to help them switch and stay switched off of cigarettes and to keep the separation from cigarettes. I know myself, I felt a lot better smoking cigarettes. Aside from that, inside of the binder is all of our customer statements on what vaping has done for them and why having a flavor other than tobacco is important to them, what it means to them and their families, how long the citizens of San Rafael have been cigarette free, and using those flavors is also incorporated in there. And then I, as the buyer of VIP, have taken a lot of measures to get rid of products that appeal to kids, products that are labeled after children things. So I would just like if you guys would give us an honest opportunity to work with you guys and combat this problem before, and let the Fed laws go through. Thank you.
And thank you. Next person.
Good evening. My name is Elena. I'm a sales associate at VIP San Rafael Vape Store, and I just wanted to talk about the ingredients that are in the vape juice, which is vegetable glycerin, flavoring, propylene glycol, water, and the consumer's choice of nicotine. I also wanted to say that vape juice is 93% safer for the body, and it doesn't contain any of the rumored ingredients, simply the ones that I just listed. I also wanted to say that vaping has personally helped me to remove certain tobacco products from my life, like backwoods and swishers and also cigarettes. And thank you for your time.
And thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
My name is Tamara Wise. I am a floor manager at VIP in San Rafael. One of my jobs is I'm in charge of training our staff. One of them is definitely carding, making sure that no minors either enter our shop or try to purchase from us. We've also ordered new scanners that scan not only out-of-state but California IDs. We've also trained the staff on really taking their time at every ID, carding anybody that looks under, 35. Also, I was a smoker for, 17 years, pack and a half a day, and vaping helped me quit smoking. I was very successful with it, and I tried everything. So I really hope this doesn't pass, or we could figure out a middle ground to where you're not taking choices away from people that are legal to buy it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, my name
Hello.
is Jesse, and I am just a patron of vape juice, and I just want to say that being someone who works in the treatment community, having been sober myself, I know what is important for people to put in their bodies, and for a long time, cigarettes was the main source of nicotine for a lot of people suffering with other addictions. And what I've seen working in the treatment community as well with the public, that a lot of those people have switched over to vape juice and to vape products, which has helped out a lot. I know I have a heart condition. I switched from smoking years ago, and I see a cardiologist, and he proves that this is much healthier for me. There are studies that say that, as we can see, 93% of findings have found that this is safer than actual smoking cigarettes. So I just wanted to say, we are letting people that are breaking the law, like kids and parents that buy these for their kids, determine what the law is going to be, rather than adults trying to find a way that makes this work for everybody. And so we're just trying to find a way that works and where our rights aren't infringed on. So thank you.
And thank you. Anybody else? Gentlemen, gentlemen.
Dave Bonfilio, resident of San Rafael, and I quit smoking cold turkey, so I know how difficult it is. I want to address the pharmacy ban first. Take the lead from CVS and Rite Aid. Rite Aid just made the announcement they're going to eliminate tobacco within the next 90 days. CVS has already done it, and CVS is also funding a program to help 200 universities become tobacco-free. So they're in the health business, and they're leading the way. As far as flavored tobacco, the tobacco industry has targeted the LGBTQ, the black community, and the Hispanic community with menthol and mint-flavored cigarettes for years. If you see the movie Beale Street, which is based on the James Baldwin movie, when the characters in that movie smoke, and they smoke throughout the movie, you'll notice they're using menthol cigarettes. So it is a tactic of the tobacco industry to entice people to use the product. I do believe that we should eliminate all flavored tobacco products, period. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, David. Now, we have one more, or an additional.
My name is Bianca Vasquez. As a member of the LGBTQ community, it's not affecting us like that. No one wants to sell to kids. We get it. It's in the home. That's really it. I kind of can compare this to foster sesta. You're not changing anything. You're just pushing it out somewhere where you can't really control it. That's it.
Okay, thank you. So you preserved your last place.
All right, my
position.
name, thank you, appreciate the time. My name's Eddie Walsh. I just want to say thank you to the council members and mayor. I own a business called Walsh and Reimer LLC in Petaluma, California, and we are manufacturers of vape e-liquid. We started doing this about 6 years ago as a hobby because my mom was diagnosed with lung cancer. So I was like, well, I got to try to find something to help her. So she started vaping. They managed to catch it early enough that where they controlled it, and she now vapes, and she's doing okay. Also, I wanted to say that our products are not marketed towards children. There was several shops in the past who I found out were selling to minors, and we pulled our product from their shops, and we blacklisted them. We will not sell to minors. I do not approve of it whatsoever. We just want our products to be in the hands of responsible adults and have a safer alternative. Like the Royal College of Physicians stated just last year that it is more than 93% less harmful than traditional combustible cigarettes. They actually, in England, they promote the use of vaping for adults, and their doctors prescribe them for their patients because it's much more effective than the patch, the lozenges, or the gum. The success rate to those are very, very low, and with vaping, it's helped millions of people quit. This goes much more beyond Save the Children. This has a lot to do with Big Pharma being very upset at our industry for taking away billions of dollars of their cessation programs that don't have a high success rate, like I just said. And so thank you for listening to me, and I hope you guys can consider this, not putting this ban through and meeting with us and discussing ways that we can make this work for both of us.
Let me ask you a question, Mike.
Yeah.
What if vaping was prescribed by a doctor?
Well, that would be considered a cessation product like Chantix or something like that. To be in that category, we would have to be, I guess, a medical aid, which we would have, basically the FDA is making us, our industry, by 2022, because we're considered a smaller business with less than 130 employees, I believe is the cutoff number, that per each SKU of our product, they want to charge us between $1 and $2 million to go through a review of tests that that doesn't guarantee will pass. It's basically playing the lottery with the FDA. So up until then, we're hoping that they end up changing some laws and kind of follow suit to what the UK has been doing, which seems to be ultra successful. And, you know, with Gottlieb leaving the FDA, there's kind of been, you know, not really sure what they're doing. They say they're going to stick to what Gottlieb's plan was, but nothing's changed so far, so we're kind of in limbo until the 2022 effect for small businesses like myself. And we supply to VIP. We don't sell to any other shop or tobacco store here because we know that they're responsible, and we've been dealing with them for the past 5 years. We haven't had one issue, and from what they told me, they haven't had any issues of selling to minors with nine sting operations, was it? 9 sting operations, they passed them all with flying colors.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'm assuming, no, wrong assumption. Hi.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I'm Pam Granger. I'm the chair of the Smoke-Free Marin Coalition. The coalition heartily supports the proposed amendments to Chapter 815 in both cases. Alarmed by the exponential increase in youth smoking vaping products, communities throughout the state, including the county and 5 other jurisdictions right here in Marin, have taken a stand against big tobacco. Back in 2009, that's 10 years ago, we've been waiting. The Family Smoking and Prevention Act prohibited the sale of cigarettes with characterizing flavors. The big tobacco company responded. They're very nimble. They have produced young high school boys are smoking small cigars, flavored cigars, at a higher rate than cigarettes, and of course e-cigarettes, higher rate than that. We talked about flavors and how big they are. Recent years, there's been an explosion of sweet flavored tobacco products that stand to undermine all the work that we have done since 1995 in tobacco control. The sweet products have fueled the popularity of e-cigarettes, and we've already seen statistics on the rate of use amongst all of our kids. Certainly, it might be said that electronic smoking devices are less harmful than a combustible cigarette. Less harmful is not necessarily safe. If they wanted to be approved as a cessation aid, they could, as the last gentleman say, apply to the FDA for so. So tobacco companies have a long history of developing and marketing flavored tobacco products as starter products that attract kids. They are indeed losing customer base, and so they have marketed, like buying Juul, 35 cents, 35% of a electronic a vaping company. They're not giving up. I've got more in the letter. I'll just leave
Can
it
I
at
ask,
that.
can I ask you one question?
Yes, certainly, Gary. Good to see you.
Why do you suppose there aren't more from our community out this evening advocating the same as you have?
Because this was billed as an exploratory thing. So as a consequence, we were waiting until there was something. By the way, in the draft it says under the age of 18, and I know you know it's gone to 21. So that was it. We've got children, we've got parents, we've got the Marin Office of Education. So there's tons of us, but we didn't perceive that this was that particular meeting. So.
On the contrary, this is probably the right time. before
Yes,
we've
well,
taken
that's
a
why I'm
position.
here.
Yeah, and I appreciate that.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Now, yes, sir.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Bob Curry, and I'm the coordinator of the tobacco program here in Marin County. And as you know, I'm not up here to lobby one way or the other, but there were a few things and questions that came up that I just had to, I wanted to speak on. You know, this whole thing on the vaping is something very disturbing to all of us who've been in tobacco control for many years. I've got over 25 years of my vocation has been to try and just protect people, but especially youth and youth access to tobacco products. And we've come a long way. 25 years ago, your council really led the way in the state in passing policies that were eventually adopted by the state. And we're hoping the state will move quickly, but as they did 25 years ago, it was not as quickly as we had hoped. But the end game we saw within the next 10 to 15 years that we would have been able to get rid of tobacco products altogether. And then the tobacco industry with the Philip Morris, they just invested $13 billion into the vaping industry because they see this is the new way that they're going to addict a whole new generation. And there's millions of our youth across the country who have already been addicted to the nicotine. Just one pod of the Juul product we thought was pretty bad, that they'll smoke this in a day and a half, or vape in a day and a half, that it contained what we thought was the equivalent nicotine of one pack of cigarettes. That was just updated by Stanford, is actually 41 cigarettes. That's over 2 packs of cigarettes, the nicotine that they are taking into their bodies. And that is very harmful to their developing brain. I have a couple answers to some questions. If I could have
Finish your
some more
thoughts if you
time.
would, please.
So there's a question on, you know, is this policy going to really be effective? And policies are part of our overall strategy. Our overall strategy, we pass a policy. Well, passing a policy doesn't do anything by itself. But as a community, we take a stand. And incidentally, the San Francisco voters did get to decide and vote on Prop B last June on what their city council or their board of supervisors had enacted with their total flavor ban, exactly what we're asking here tonight. The voters approved that measure that they had passed 68% of the voters. And so that's why the coalition has, our coalition and many coalitions in the Bay Area have been promoting a policy. But the policy generates education and discussion in the community. The parents start to hear about all the dangers. Those 33% of the parents, hopefully, with our education that we're doing, in addition to asking for policies, we're out there educating parents, we're educating students, and we're hopefully that number is certainly going to be reduced drastically. And then in the enforcement, we are putting a lot of energies into enforcement. We have been, over the last number of years, going to every tobacco retailer in the county, and that will increase because, as Ethan had said, that we have gotten a 3-year grant for the county with the sheriff to do additional sting operations. And somebody from Sacramento was up speaking, and they said that there haven't been any stores in San Rafael that have sold tobacco products to our youth, and that is not the facts. Fortunately, our rates have been in the single digits because we are constantly out there doing enforcement checks. We have probably some of the best in the state, but unfortunately, some of our retailers see the little fine that they've been getting as it's something that they can take as something they will pay as long as they continue to sell to minors and making a lot of money. So.
And thanks for your comments, insightful.
Mr. Mayor, before Bob leaves, there's a question that was asked that staff's not able to answer, and I was hoping maybe Bob has an answer to it, which is the question that came up of, in the Marin jurisdictions, where there's been several that have passed this already, have there been any exceptions for any kind of businesses, either that caters only to adults or any other kind of exceptions in Marin so far?
No, there hasn't.
I think the question that came up is, and maybe in other jurisdictions there have been, but we haven't seen that in Marin so far. Is that
not in
right?
Marin? We don't have that many significant tobacco retailers. There are a couple up in Novato. Novato passed the full a ban, which did not at the time include the menthol cigarettes because San Francisco was going through the Proposition E. And so we held off on getting them to go with the menthol cigarettes until we saw how that played out with the public. And as I said, 68% of the people supported. So we'll be going back to Novato. They've got all the other flavor products in their ordinance, but they don't have the menthol cigarettes yet.
Thanks for asking the question. Thanks for your response. I'm sorry, Bob? Andrew would
Bob,
like
if
to
you don't
question.
mind, Councilmember Gamblin raised an interesting point, and I'm wondering if you might be able to address it. Is there an equivalence, and if there is or isn't, if you can give your sort of thoughts on the fact that we here in San Rafael, but statewide, we've legalized adult medicinal and adult use recreational marijuana. And we're going through a process of licensing and permitting the manufacture, sale, and distribution of marijuana products here in the city of San Rafael. If at the same time that we're doing that, to respect people's right to purchase marijuana and use it legally, if at the same time we do that, we're also looking to restrict a legal product because we're concerned about the impact on youth smoking or youth usage. How do you square those two? On the one hand, you've got freedom of opportunity to purchase with appropriate controls in place. And on the other hand, we're saying we're not sure that those controls in place are adequate to safeguard our youth, so we're going to put a ban in place on at least a large segment of those products.
Yeah, I am not involved with the marijuana other than the fact that in your secondhand smoke you have banned the use or smoking of marijuana in public or any place that other regular tobacco products are not allowed to be used. I do know that there are a couple of coalitions in the community, the Marin Prevention Network and the Coalition Connection, that they have been going to all of the different council meetings, and they are certainly concerned about the youth being able to access marijuana products. And so they are really not in favor of, even though it's an legally adult product, but they don't want the storefront stores to be opened in Marin County to have that access. They feel if adults can get it shipped in or transported in, that is a safer for our young people. So maybe that's something we could do with vaping products, have them transported in, but not sold in the county, hopefully.
Thanks. It's a tough one. Anyone else? Evening.
Hi, my name is Laura Walsh, and bear with me, I just had shoulder surgery, so you can see this is kind of important to me. I was a 2-pack-a-day smoker. My daughter begged me to quit. I tried everything. I tried patches, I tried gums, I tried white knuckling it. For years, I tried everything. And then I was out with a friend, and they had this little thing. And I was like, and they were, you know, they looked like they were smoking a cigarette. And I was like, what is that? I'd never heard of it. And I tried it, and it was easy. It made it so easy. And I know they talk about the pods for the Juuls and how much nicotine they have in it. And those are designed, those high milligram ones, for people like me who are 2-pack-a-day smokers and need that high amount of nicotine in order to quit. And then it's designed as a step-down process. I'm currently at 3 milligrams of nicotine, which is significantly less than the 50 milligrams. It's a choice that the customers have. And I think it's important. I tried with tobacco flavors to quit. That didn't work. I ended up quitting actually with a strawberry cotton candy flavor, which I know that a lot of people are anti-candy flavors, but that's what worked for me, and that's what works for so many other people. Because if you're still having the tobacco flavor, at least for me and other people I know, we didn't see the incentive to switch when it tastes the same. Because it is still a little bit of a leap, because you don't just get addicted to the tobacco and the nicotine, you get addicted to all those chemicals. And that's one of the things that you don't hear about. But you do, you get addicted to all that chemical cocktail that they feed into your body. They don't put those chemicals in there for no reason. They put them in there because it makes it more addictive. And so for me, it made a big difference. And I want other people to have the opportunity that I had in being able to live a healthier, longer life. So thank you for your time. And on a side note, you can buy mango flavored cannabis. Thanks.
Good evening, council members. My name's Ted Torina. Good seeing you again, Gary Phillips. We first saw each other several years ago at the first homeless meeting to deal with the homeless crisis. My mother ran for city council several years ago. She wasn't as fortunate as all of you. She had a very worthy opponent. She got defeated. She was a wonderful person. I'm one of the proprietaries and the manager of VIP. I'm very proud of my staff. They did a very good job tonight outlining to you the information I think that you need. You know, when I came into this business, I was asked from another friend to help another friend. I said I'd only come into this if it was a high-class store and it really served the community, and that's exactly what it does. I'm very proud of my staff. We're very educationally based. We've had the San Rafael Police Department come in at least 9 times, according to the officer that was last in there a month ago. We've passed every time. We invested, like one of my staff members, the trainer, in a ID machine that works very well. We could probably get a better one. We bought it 3 or 4 years ago. There are better ones. We could spend more money. There's definitely quite a few things we could do to help youth not vape as much. Don't feel like our business should be penalized, or any of your constituents, the adults. We have over 15,000 customers, of which over 5,000 of those are vapors. and most of them have quit smoking cigarettes because of the things my staff has taught them. You know, we all want to help the kids. Don't think the flavor ban is the best way to do it. I'm going to come in tomorrow with a staff member and another expert and set up a meeting with one of your staffers to go over some additional options. I think that would be helpful. Thank you for your consideration very much.
Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Well, I can see individual situations, perhaps those cited this evening, the benefit from, in this case, the vaping that you've discussed. In the back of my mind, I'm wondering how many more individuals, particularly youth, are going to be enticed into starting with the products we're talking about tonight, and therefore have to go through the cycle of now relieving themselves of that addiction. I mean, are we going to net out if we say no, and we're going to still have some that will, versus allowing more to use it that'll have to go through the cycle?
Well, that's a great question, Mayor. I would say that if we banned flavored vaping, that the youth, instead of picking up vaping, which some would, they would smoke cigarettes, which is a much less healthy alternative.
At the same degree?
Pardon?
To the same degree, the same numbers?
I can't
How would you
answer.
conclude that?
I can't honestly answer whether it'd be the same numbers. I can only say that the decrease in tobacco use is way, way down. It was commented earlier that Big Tobacco is investing in the vape business. Yes, they are. They didn't used to. When it first came out, they were fighting it tooth and nails. They're investing money now because they are starting to see the benefits and realize it's an international thing that people prefer over smoking cigarettes. That's why they're jumping into it.
But perhaps the reduction in usage of cigarettes is a result of some of the provisions here in San Rafael and perhaps elsewhere that have discouraged that initial encounter.
Yes, and our store also, any products we can find to benefit the well-being, the happiness of our customers is exactly what we look for. We have an opiate crisis going on, so we brought in some health and wellness products, our newest line. We started as an adult store, but we've expanded into items that serve the community, serve our customers, are healthier, better alternatives, and vaping is definitely one of them.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Once again, anybody else? Seeing no one, we'll close and come back for comment and direction to the staff on this agenda item. Andrew,
Yeah,
please.
I just got a couple of
sure.
comments or questions for staff. I'm torn between what is very compelling about what's being proposed, which is, can we, if the goal here, if the objective, leaving aside the pharmacy issue for the moment, if the goal is to address the issue of youth use of nicotine or nicotine products, how do we reduce that usage? Then I'd like, if there's any data out there on similar bans elsewhere and the effect it's had on the youth consumption of nicotine products, that would help me. So for example, just in a quick online search during this issue, I see that in Maine about 10 years ago or longer, a similar ban was put in place for the entire state of Maine. Have they seen a fall off in youth usage of nicotine products? San Francisco, it's probably too soon to tell, but there are the city of Chicago did a ban and restricted the sale of flavored tobacco products within 500 feet of schools. Has there been, that was about 5 years ago, any data, has any data emerged from that ban or similar bans elsewhere that would tell us that this kind of ban would have the desired effect? Because if it doesn't have the desired effect, if there isn't real evidence to tell us that, then I'm a little concerned that we're talking out of both sides of our mouth. And my question, which comes from John Gamblin's comment sort of betrays that. Here we are extolling the virtues of licensing. I shouldn't say extolling the virtues, that's a little strong, but we're blessing the sale and distribution of marijuana-based products because it's been legalized in the state of California, and we know there are adults who would like to use it. And at the same time, we expect that controls will be in place to prevent youth consumption of those marijuana products. Why do we hold tobacco-related or nicotine-related products to a different standard? So I'm a little concerned about that, and to the extent we can address that, if this matter comes back to us, I'd like a full discussion on that issue. So data elsewhere. And then I'm interested in the exempting adult-only institutions. So if we're confident that, or if the goal here is to restrict access by youth, and we limit it to adult only, then we're dealing with the education side, which has been brought up by several people today. That is educating adults not to share with their children vaping products, so that we really get to the heart of the problem here. Because if adults can get to this stuff and buy it online, whatever, then we haven't solved the problem with the proposed tobacco flavor ban.
Question, thank you. Marilyn?
I don't have a question. Are we ready for comments?
Yes, please.
Comments.
Yes,
I believe that we should bring ourselves in line with our neighbors. I support the ban on flavored tobacco and the sale of tobacco in pharmacies. My recommendation would be that we have the staff bring back the proposed ordinances largely as written. To the extent that additional data supporting the proposals can be located, that would be great. But I'm in favor of the draft as brought forward by staff.
And thanks for clear direction. Marilyn? Kate?
Thank you. Well, thank you for everyone who came down this evening and shared your stories of both your personal issues of addiction as well as with your family members. And they are compelling. And I thought the mayor's question about, as adults, you're struggling with addiction, and I was thinking the same thing. Well, if you hadn't had the access to it, maybe it would have been a different story that you ended up having in your life. So I'm kind of grappling with that. And the discussion reminded me of what we had a couple of years ago when we talked about adding e-cigarettes and vaping to our smoking policy. And that night, there were actually a lot of people in the room, and we spent a lot of time, we started talking about the health effects, and we all looked at each other, and we don't have the qualifications. So for me, I felt I'm not having Dr. Willis here. I really would like him to weigh in. I mean, he's our public health officer of Marin County. Some of the health part, I'm not the expert there, and I would like to hear what he has to say about the youth access, because there's two, I don't want to say competing, but there are two different issues. One is restricting the youth access, and the other is having a product for adults that has absolutely worked for them and had positive results. So like Andrew just said, is there a way to have a carve out for VIP? I mean, obviously you guys showed up and talked about it. According to what you said, there are two other businesses here that would also fall into it. I believe you when you talk about checking IDs. I actually, and this is just off the top of my head, but I'm thinking if I went to a service station, they might not have that same level of control. So I think rewarding those businesses that really understand and do reduce the access. I think we can get creative about it. I don't know if it'll hurt our A grade that we get from the tobacco industry, but I think it does reflect what we're trying to do here in terms of supporting small businesses and what adults want. And I do believe reducing access will reduce youth use of it. We've seen that in terms of what RX Safe Marin, it's not exactly alike, but they reduced the opiates reduction availability, and the numbers went down. To the one thing about the cannabis comment, to me, those are storefronts. That's a different thing. So I actually don't have that same tension between those two things, because delivery is different than storefronts. So it would be different if we were talking about cannabis storefronts, which right now we are not. So for me, I guess in closing, interested in a carve out, how we could make that work, and then having Dr. Willis come, which I know he's hard to get here, and I appreciate both Bob and Pam coming down as well. But I know when he came before, he did have some of the data that Andrew recommended.
Good comment. John?
Again, thank you for the report. Thank you for everybody that showed up and gave us your comments. We really appreciate that. you know, from a personal standpoint, you know, I watched my dad smoke from the day I was born until the day that he died much too early. And it's still tough for me to deal with that. So I'm definitely not here supporting tobacco use or anything that is an addictive form in the sense of vaping. You know, and like I said, but it's not my role to dictate what an adult can do in their personal life if it doesn't impact me. You know, we passed the ordinance to add vaping to our other smoking ordinance because that impacted others that didn't have that choice in terms of secondhand smoke. When you're walking down 4th Street and you're walking behind a cloud and someone of a vape, that's not your choice anymore. So we put that ordinance into place because it was protecting our citizens from something that they had no control over. In this case, what we're being asked to do is ban a legally approved product from the use of adults who are old enough to make the choice on what they want to do with their bodies. If they want to smoke and they want to get cancer and they want to die, that's not my choice. That's their choice. If they want to vape because it helps them stop smoking, that might help them prevent getting cancer. I don't know that's a fact. As Kate said, we are not medical professionals up here. I don't have the anecdotal evidence that says it's going to work or not work. But I'm not going to tell somebody that they can't do that if it's perfectly legal. If the federal government wants to come down and ban this product altogether, if the state government wants to come down and ban this product altogether, then we'll have a ban on the product and it won't be sold. And that is something that I believe should be left to the federal and state government. I know our representative from the county had said that, you know, San Rafael took the lead in issuing policies and ordinances early on that were then adapted or brought up to the state level, and that's great. At this point, we have current legislation pending in front of both the federal Senate and House and the Assembly and the Senate. I don't believe that it is our duty to dictate this policies. I wouldn't believe it's our duty to dictate immigration or gun policy. Those are better left to the governments to handle those. It is hard for me to look at this and say this is the best use of our time as a city when we've got so many other things. And in an earlier meeting this evening on a study session, that response was used that we have better things to do with our time than this, and I truly believe that we have better things to do with our time than to dictate what consenting adults have to do with something that a product is completely legal. So I won't support a ban on this in any way, shape, or form with carve-outs, be it there or not.
Well, you've heard a lot, and I tend to agree with certainly most of the points that have been made this evening, and do wish to thank the community for providing some input. Frankly, there was a little more support than I anticipated, so I was pleased to at least hear that viewpoint, to take it into consideration. I think Maribeth makes a good point with regard to the other communities. You know, we as a broader community, that is Marin County community, I think these things through to a pretty complete and, in my view, for the most part, satisfactory conclusions. And I do see the trend line. So I will be in favor of the ban as prescribed, or at least having it come back for further consideration and discussion, and perhaps we can think through some of these issues. John, you're right, in my view, with regard to the restriction of adults and their behavior, as long as it doesn't infringe upon others in a negative way. So I must admit, I'm kind of going back and forth and torn a little bit on this, because I want to do everything we can to send the right message to our youth, and I think a restriction is the right direction to do so. I thank Rebecca for getting us an A way back when. We said, okay, what do we have to do to get an A, and let's do that and drive in that direction, and this seems to be further enhancing that direction, not overwhelming, but I think it's a good signal to the community as to where we're at. So I appreciate the comments made. I think you hopefully have plenty to work with, and we'll be able to come back with something that reflects the sentiment of the council in the aggregate. So I want to thank you once again for doing that. And if there's any last comments, I'd appreciate that. But if not, and you're satisfied you have enough to work with, and perhaps give us some additional time to think through the comments that were made, and certainly those, in my case, of the fellow council members, to solidify my own thoughts, I'll appreciate the first reading.
Yes, we appreciate your clarity, and I think what I heard is the majority of the council would like to see this come back, assuming that the answers to those questions that have come up are answered satisfactorily, so that there's, data is showing that this, that it should be coming back and that sort of thing. So I think that we'll look into those things. We're happy to meet with VIP Vapes as we would meet with anyone who would like to meet with us on any policy topic. So I think it probably won't be back in front of you at the next meeting because it sounds like we've got some work to do before that. But I think that, and we'll also reach out to Dr. Willis and things like that. So assuming that all of those things continue to point to coming back to you as something that's similar to staff's recommendation, we'll bring it forward at that time.
Yeah, and I particularly appreciate the comment with regard to Dr. Willis. I mean, we, for the most part, need some help on this thing, it seems to me. John,
One follow-up question. You mentioned the statistic about the 33% of their parents bought, the 66 other percent of how they access that. Do you have those figures of where that is and
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that is, let me pull it up.
I'm sorry.
The other two were availability of flavors such as mint candy or chocolate. And then the final one was the belief that they are less harmful than other forms of tobacco.
Okay, so I guess my question is not why they bought them, but how they obtained them.
Yeah.
So if 33% was obtained by their parents or other adult buying them for, how did they, since it is an illegal product to obtain under the age of 21, how did the rest get those?
I'll look at it's an FDA report, so I'll pull that and bring that back.
That would be helpful, because if the whole precipice of this ordinance is to help decrease youth use of that, and if we don't know how they're getting access to it, then how are we sure that by doing this would actually decrease that use? Because I didn't see that anywhere. So
Probably internet, my guess. In any case, with that, I'm sorry, do we need a motion on this?
Yes.
Can we have a motion that directs staff
So
to
I
the
move
next
that
step?
we accept the report and we provide a direction.
Thank you. And seconded?
Second?
And roll call, please.
Councilmember Bushy.
Aye.
Councilmember Cullen.
Aye.
Councilmember Gamblin.
No.
Councilmember Vice Mayor McCullough.
Aye.
Mayor Phillips.
Aye, matter carries 4-1. Excuse me, and thanks once again, everyone. We'll move on to council members' reports.
Very quick